The winter wind howled through the city as if it carried every unsaid grief, every unfinished memory, every secret buried under the heartbeat of a man who had lost too much. Ethan Hale, the famously cold yet notoriously gentle-eyed CEO of Hale Industries, stepped out of his car in front of the community library where his nanny had taken his one-year-old daughter, Lily, for her morning reading time. He had come only to surprise Lily, to steal a quiet moment in a life always clouded by meetings, negotiations, and the silent ache of loneliness left after losing his wife. But the moment he stepped onto the pavement, his heart stuttered violently in his chest, because there on the icy sidewalk beside a stack of worn-out bags and a coat far too thin for the December cold, his baby daughter was stretching out her hands toward a woman sitting on the ground. Her clothes were faded, her hair unkempt, her hands trembling as she held them out, almost afraid to touch the child who smiled at her with innocent trust. The nanny stood just a step away, watching carefully, but the woman's eyes were filled with a grief that pushed the air from Ethan's lungs. She looked up when she sensed him, startled, almost frightened, but then something in her gaze softened, as if she recognized him in a way that froze time itself. And when she opened her mouth, her voice was soft, cracked, but carried a truth that shook him to the spine. I used to be your wife's nurse. Call to action first, after the hook before the story unfolds. If you believe in kindness, in second chance, and in the quiet miracles life sometimes brings, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. It helps more people find stories that heal the heart. Ethan felt the world tilt, the noise around him vanishing into a hollow ring. His wife, Ava, her memory still so alive within him, had passed away a year ago, leaving him with a newborn daughter and a house that felt too big for the silence. Her time in the hospital had been brief but agonizing, a whirlwind of hopes, fears, and final words he replayed every night. He remembered nurses passing by, murmured instructions, footsteps echoing down sterile corridors, but in the blur of grief, he had never learned all their names. Now, standing before him was a woman who looked like life had taken everything from her. Yet she gazed at Lily with a tenderness that made his throat burn. Her hands trembled as she lowered them, pulling them back, as if she didn't feel worthy of touching the child. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to alarm the nanny. She just looks so much like her mother. I didn't think I'd ever see her again." Ethan stepped closer, studying the woman's face. Beneath the exhaustion, beneath the worn-out features, he saw sincerity, but he also saw hunger, fatigue, and sorrow pressed into every line of her skin. She wasn't a woman who had fallen on hard times recently. She was someone who had been falling for a very long time. "Your name?" Ethan asked softly, his voice gentler than he expected. "Maria," she whispered. Maria Dunn. The name sparked a faint flicker of recognition. He closed his eyes for a moment, remembering Ava's faint smile, her whispered gratitude for the nurses who sat with her during the nights, when he had been holding their daughter, or discussing treatments with doctors. He remembered Ava once saying, "There's one nurse, Maria. She holds my hand when the pain gets too heavy." And now Maria was sitting on a cold sidewalk, shivering, her life reduced to a pair of torn shoes, and a hope she seemed too ashamed to hold on to. Ethan's instincts warred inside him. Part of him, the CEO trained to distrust, to analyze, insisted this might be manipulation. But the other part, the part still connected to Ava, still holding on to the warmth she left behind, that part knew the truth. He knelt slightly, his voice steady but soft. "How long have you been living like this?" Maria shook her head. "Too long. I didn't come to you. I never wanted anything. I swear. I only stopped because your daughter," she crawled toward me, smiling, as if she knew me, as if she remembered my voice. Her voice cracked, and she clutched her hands tightly, as though she feared he might accuse her of something. But Ethan didn't speak. He only looked at Lily, who was now trying to lean forward again, arms reaching, as if announcing her own truth. And suddenly, something inside him broke open. He realized Lily had never reached so willingly toward any stranger before. It was as if she felt Ava in this woman, as if she recognized a familiar kindness. He exhaled slowly, and the cold air ghosted from his lips like a sigh from the past. "Come inside," he said quietly. "You can't sit out here in this weather." Maria's eyes widened in disbelief, as if kindness was something she no longer knew how to accept. She shook her head rapidly. No, I'm fine. Please just let me see her for a moment. That's enough. I don't want you to think I'm after your money or—" "I'm not offering money," he said gently. "I'm offering warmth." Maria stared at him, stunned, before slowly nodding. Inside the library cafe, where heaters hummed and the scent of coffee softened the air, Maria warmed her hands around a cup of tea Ethan insisted she take. Lily sat on his lap, cooing happily as she stared at Maria with fascination. Ethan watched the woman carefully. Now that they were in proper lighting, he could see a faint scar across her forehead, A limp in her left leg, bruises on her knuckles. Life had not simply turned hard, it had fought her, battered her, nearly broken her. After several minutes, she finally gathered the courage to speak, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't leave the hospital by choice," she admitted, not looking at him. "There was an accident. I fell while rushing to help a patient. Head trauma. A long recovery. And while I was recovering, my father passed away. Bills piled up. I lost my room, then my car, then everything else. I wasn't strong enough to keep going. But I always remembered your wife. She was the kindest woman I ever cared for." Hearing Ava spoken of with such tenderness made Ethan's chest tighten. He swallowed hard, forcing himself to stay composed. Maria continued, tears glistening in her eyes. "The night before she passed, she held my hand and told me I deserved happiness too, that one day something good would come back to me. I didn't believe her. But seeing Lily today felt like a piece of that promise." Ethan looked down at his daughter, who reached up to touch his face, as if reminding him to breathe. For the first time in a long while, he felt something other than grief. He felt warmth. He felt Ava's presence in the way Maria spoke, in the kindness she had shown even while drowning in her own struggles. And he felt something awaken in him, responsibility, compassion, maybe even fate. The hours passed with slow, gentle revelation. Maria spoke of the night she stayed with Ava when the pain was too much, the stories Ava shared about her dreams for Lily, her love for Ethan, her fear of leaving too soon. Ethan listened, each word carving new emotion into his heart. Lily eventually fell asleep in his arms, peaceful, unaware of the fragile miracle unfolding. By the time the winter sun began to set, Ethan knew he couldn't let Maria return to the streets. Not after everything she had done for his wife. Not after everything life had taken from her. Not after seeing the truth in her eyes. He cleared his throat. "Maria, I want to help you." Instantly she shook her head, panicked. "No. Please, I don't want charity. I've lived this long without asking anyone for anything. I won't start now." "It's not charity," he replied softly. "It's gratitude." Maria's lips trembled, but she said nothing. "I can offer you a place to stay," he continued. "A temporary one at first, until we sort things out. And if you want, I can help you return to nursing. Or something else you'd prefer. Your life doesn't have to stay in the shadows." She covered her mouth as a sob escaped. Why would you do that for someone like me?" "Because," Ethan whispered, "you were there when the person I loved most needed someone. And because my daughter reached for you the way she reaches for people she trusts." Maria trembled for a long moment before tears began streaming silently down her face. She nodded, unable to speak. Ethan called his driver to take Maria to a warm guest house under his company's charity program. The entire drive, Maria kept thanking him, clutching the sleeves of the borrowed coat he had wrapped around her. That night, after putting Lily to bed, Ethan sat alone, thinking of Ava, how she always believed kindness had a strange way of returning, how she used to say, helping someone is not losing something. It's passing the light forward. And for the first time since she passed, he felt that light again. Faint, but real. Over the next few weeks, Maria slowly rebuilt her life. She received medical checkups, therapy, and support. Ethan set her up with nursing refresher courses, but only after she agreed and insisted on working for her future. Lily grew attached to her, giggling whenever Maria visited. The staff at Hale Industries, known for their fear of the CEO, were shocked when they saw the once cold man smile softly at the sight of the former nurse walking into the building with newfound strength. It was as if Ava's kindness had reached through time and touched all their lives. Call to action second. Near the end, if this story moved something in you, if it reminded you that kindness can echo, that compassion can change destinies, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It tells us these stories matter to you. Months passed, and a gentle peace settled into Ethan's life. He still missed Ava, he always would, but now the world didn't feel unbearably empty. Lily laughed more. He smiled more. And Maria, once invisible to society, now stood proudly, working again, living again. One spring afternoon, as cherry blossoms drifted through the city, Maria visited Ethan's home. She watched Lily toddle toward her, giggling before turning to Ethan with gratitude shining in her eyes. "I think," she said softly, "your wife was right. Something good did come back to me. Through both of you." Ethan nodded, a soft smile touching his lips. "And you brought something back to us too." For in saving Maria from the cold, Ethan had unknowingly saved pieces of himself, pieces he thought were lost with Ava. Before the ending, please comment, what part of the story touched your heart the most? And with that quiet exchange, the story didn't end, it simply continued in a world where kindness still had the power to pull people from the cold, where second chances still found those who deserved them, and where a single moment between a baby and a broken woman built a bridge no tragedy could erase. The world may be hard, but sometimes One act of compassion is enough to light an entire life again.